Okay. Ugh. So we're back. Second half of January. We're looking at the transits that are happening during the second half of January and pulling some tarot cards for those transits. Maybe you saw my previous video where I did the first half of January. I'm jumping back in. It's the same day. I went, I had a snack, I drank some water, and now we're back. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's pull for this full moon in Cancer conjunct Mars. I'm also looking at the chart here, and on this day, the sun is actually trine Uranus. I feel like that's a little bit chaotic. I mean, it is a trine aspect, but anything involving Uranus is always a surprise. And since the sun is trine Uranus, that means that Uranus is sextile to the moon because of the configuration of the chart on the full moon, which also means that on this day, since the sun is going to be conjunct Mars, that Uranus will also be sextile Mars loosely. So anyway, the first card is the sun. The sun is generally a good omen. It does appear that this full moon is going to be a little chaotic, especially because of some of the other cards in this reading. But the sun is a good card to start off with. When we think of the sun, we think of positivity, warmth. I mean, just look at the imagery on this card. This is a very happy card. The next card after that is the Seven of Cups. Now, this is why I was saying that the rest of this reading, it's a little bit chaotic. The Seven of Cups does have to do with choices. You can see that there is a person here and they have many opportunities laid out in front of them. It can also have to do with like overwhelm of having many things to choose from, or just illusion because there is so much going on in front of you. You can see by this person's stance that they do seem perhaps a bit overwhelmed or startled even. The important thing about this card is to remember to not be overwhelmed by the options or anything new and shiny in front of you, and to weigh the pros and cons and to make the best decision of which opportunity is the best. So the next card that we have is the Nine of Swords. The Nine of Swords, I call the Nine of Swords the Nightmare card, especially when it's in its reversed position. It just means like unnecessary stress that we are adding on top of a situation that we might be overwhelmed by with this Seven of Cups situation going on. So whatever is presenting itself to us, whatever options that we might have, we might be giving ourselves unnecessary amounts of stress when trying to figure out what the best option is. The next card that we have is the Knight of Pentacles reversed. In this context, this card says to me that we need to remain realistic about our goals and about which option and what we are trying to choose from in order to properly plan out the path ahead. We need to have a game plan if we actually want to accomplish anything. This is also sort of echoed by the next card, which is the King of Wands reversed. The King of Wands reversed has to do with having really high expectations, being kind of impulsive. Any wand card, especially any of the court cards that are reversed, has to do with impulsiveness. Wands are of the element of fire, and when fire is not in its dignity, it is impulsive. So this is a reminder to not be arrogant in the pursuit of our goals. This also might indicate that some people might be aggressive or impulsive or arrogant in pursuit of their goals at this time. But I think the important thing to remember here is to not have unrealistic expectations of yourself and to have a game plan. Know where you are going to step next. Okay, and the last card of this reading is the Ace of Pentacles. This is a good last card to have in this reading, especially with this Seven of Cup cards that presents us with all of these opportunities. The Ace of Pentacles shows that one of those opportunities is coming to fruition. The pentacles are of the element earth, so this is something that is materializing. Aces are the first card of their suit, so this is showing potential. Potential for abundance, potential for opportunity. Any ace card is kind of like a green light. Pentacles, like I said, they are representative of the element of earth. They are also representative of money, as they are coins, as shown in the tarot deck. So although we might go through these trials and tribulations during this full moon, ultimately it does lead us to opportunity. Okay, I'm going to pull for the nodes ingressing into Pisces and Virgo. This is actually a major transit that is happening this month, and I've talked about it in previous podcasts. So I want to talk about it again. Pisces, like I said, does have to do with healing. I think that the North Node moving into Pisces is very significant, especially at this time with all of these other transits. So let's pull some cards for that. All right, interesting spread of cards we have here. Justice. This card Obviously, I don't know if it's obvious or not, but it has a lot to do with the law, fairness, truth. So there could be some key things coming to the surface in terms of the law, in terms of fairness during this time, around January 18th. The next card is the sun reversed. So this is interesting to me because the sun reversed almost makes this justice card a little bit bittersweet. And I never like to look at cards just isolated by themselves. So the next card in the deck is the Three of Wands. So these three cards together tell me that yes, maybe justice has been served. It almost might feel like a little too late, but it's still a celebration. But we're also kind of seeing that there is still a lot of ground to cover. There is still progress to be made. And this does generally have an optimistic feel about it. The next card that we have is the Ace of Wands reversed. We've had several cards that have been wand cards that have been reversed. And like I said earlier, wands are of the element of fire. And when fire is not in its dignity, it is impulsive, it is aggressive, it's just it's not focused. And ace cards have to do with a beginning. Not only that, but after that, we have the Ace of Cups reversed. So this reading to me, I mean, especially this Three of Wands right here, kind of looking over these aces, tells me that maybe the beginning of this transit is a tipping point for justice to be served, but we are still looking out over all of this misdirected energy, whether it be in the context of the cups, sadness, or of the wands, anger. These are still things that are very much not in their dignity at this time, especially Pisces being a water sign. Pisces is not the most organized of the signs. I always make a joke that it's like, oh, don't fall to Pisces. I mean, pieces. Pisces can be very emotional, but it is also a very intuitive sign, and it is a sign that is very in touch with the emotions in its dignity. So it's important to keep that in mind as the nodes shift into these new signs. So the last card in this reading is the Fool. So this came up earlier in the reversed position, but in the upright position, it has more of an optimistic connotation. This is the first card of the tarot deck, signifying beginnings, opportunity, and that there is a path ahead for us to forge. This card has a generally optimistic connotation. At this time, we might feel empowered and excited to move towards a more just system. This transit is the beginning of a 1.5 year long journey where the nodes will be moving through Pisces and Virgo. So this is a very appropriate card for that transit. Okay, so that takes us to about the 18th of January. Oh my gosh, and we have a new moon on January 29th. In Aquarius, in a same sign conjunction as Pluto and Mercury. Interesting one here. I mean, they're not super closely conjunct. It's within, what is that, like 7 degrees? 7 degrees for Mercury, 8 degrees for Pluto. So it's not like a conjunction, but it is a same sign conjunction. So the new moon in Aquarius, January 29th. New moon in Aquarius, January 29th. All right. Now the first card that came up was the Devil. I'm covering up the explicit parts of this card. This card on a collective level has to do with oppression, the shadow, attachment, anything that really keeps us kind of like in chains. Like you can see the two people in this depiction are. This can be self-imposed. Sometimes it is externally imposed, but it has to do with the shadow side of ourselves, of society. The next card that came up actually in one of the previous readings for this month is the Four of Pentacles. In this context, especially with the Devil, this card can have to do with overprotecting our assets and greed. When I see this next to the Devil, the first word that comes to my mind is stingy. And because this full moon is sort of closely conjunct Pluto, Pluto is power, it's almost as if there is being like a force exerted upon us that's making us kind of recoil and be super protective. The next card is the Tower reversed. Now, when the Tower shows up in its reversed position, it's a bit different when it's in its upright position. This can sometimes still indicate crisis of some sort. In this particular context, especially with the Devil, I'd say that this is representative of a fear to change. The Devil being very attached, almost chained to these old ideals, this old way of thinking, and we are just like very much resisting change. Pluto also does have a tendency to kind of bring things to the surface, bring the shadow to the surface. And at this time, it is conjunct Mercury. So these cards are kind of telling a similar story, that the shadow is being shoved in our face. We are reacting to that, and we are resisting the change that needs to be made. A new moon is a great time to sow new seeds and to have new goals. This is also happening in the sign of Aquarius, the sign of community. The next card is the Sun reversed. Now, the Sun is never a bad card. In its reversed position, it can just mean that we are finding it hard to be optimistic, even though perhaps there has been an opportunity for us to address this shadow. Addressing the shadow is never easy. So, looking at the transits, this Mercury conjunct Pluto during the new moon might bring about new information about something that we didn't really want to deal with, that we are now kind of being forced to deal with. So this Five of Cups, this is just sort of the aftermath of that whole situation. We might be feeling sad. We might be feeling lost. We might be feeling disappointed. But like I said in one of the previous readings, this just means that the event has passed. Now we do have to deal with the aftermath. The last card in the reading is the Five of Pentacles reversed. Now, the imagery on this card is not great. However, coming after all of these other cards, I would say that this has more of a positive connotation. All of these celestial bodies in Aquarius, and especially Pluto being in Aquarius, I mean, talk to any astrologer. Pluto in Aquarius is indicative of the breakdown of hierarchical structures, especially after Pluto has been in Capricorn, the literal sign of capitalism. And not to get too political about it, but I think that everyone can recognize that over the past 20 years, the world has become very materialistic. This is a card that shows that that sort of mentality has not been good for us, and we are finally beginning to move past it. We are recognizing with all of these celestial bodies in Aquarius that community is more important than capital, wealth, material things. This card also shows that we have felt a lack of purpose in our lives. But like I said, this card does have a silver lining to it. We are moving past that. We are recognizing these things and moving forward. Although the imagery in this card is kind of sad, the people are walking, they are moving. This does look like it is going to be a pretty profound new moon. So, wow. What a month January is going to be. If you would like a personal reading from me where I go through the transits of your natal chart and pull some tarot cards based on that, there is a link down below where you can book. I am very much looking forward to seeing what January brings, and I will see you next time.